Whoops. G'day, friends and fans, and welcome to Dave Talk Stuff, Ukraine War Update for the 5th of December 2025. Just checking my sound levels. Yesterday I think was a bit dismal. Started poor, but I think it picked up. Yeah, I think it's just some weird delay or something. But plus, I also lose dBs through when the file is saved, when the file and uploaded or processed. Yeah, because the live stream was louder than the replay. Because I checked the live stream, but I hadn't checked the replay. I can't check the replay until it's over. But yesterday's replay was terrible. But no, I checked the live stream and it was fine. So, you're going to hear a lot about Venezuela from now on. Not from me, I mean everywhere you go. There's going to be talk about Venezuela. Zelensky, of course, is cooked. He's running around like a chicken over his head. They're still trying to come up with alternative peace plans in Brussels. Trump is just, I'm living rent-free in their heads. Sooner or later, they're going to come back to me and say, Trump was right, and it's going to be huge. We're all going to stand there together, 38 countries, and say to Putin, it's over, and then, boom, it's over. Everybody's happy. Trump was right. It's just a matter of time now before all these buffoons stop playing around. I don't mean just Putin, and I don't mean just Zelensky. I mean all the buffoons playing around, whether it's Keir Starmer, Macron, some bozo off in the middle of Timbuktu. They're all fucking around trying to position themselves so that they could get a little piece of the action, because that's what Ukraine is to them, a piece of the action. Okay, it's a big old money laundering operation, and they just want to get their hands on sweet treasury money. And it ain't happening, right? Trump has already told them how it's going to be paid for, how it's all going to proceed. All you have to do is get Zelensky to stop the war, and he's the only one who can, because if he doesn't, Putin's going to take a huge slice out of Ukraine and leave him with the empty husk. Now, my fear is that's what Zelensky wants, to create a permanently destabilized Ukraine so that he can stay in office. We can't hold elections until the emergency over. While the Russians are on our territory, will remain in the emergency. So that is, I think, the plan. And Brussels doesn't want to go along with it, because if they did, they would come out with a Zelensky peace plan. But they're not. They're trying to come out with a way to deliver Trump's peace plan, because they know Trump is going to deliver the resources, a soft landing for the European economies. They need it desperately. But at the same time, I think they're prolonging this war to drain China, because China and India are funding this war. Okay, Russia's just their proxy, while Ukraine is NATO's proxy. So 52 drone strikes overnight, all targets hit. Ukraine won't say what was hit, or sometimes there's an article that comes out and I show you an explosion and you go, oh wait, that's a month old. Yeah, the photo's a month old, but they don't publish it straight away. It's got to go through the approval process. So they'll publish the article, but it'll be behind a paywall, and it won't come because Bloomberg, particularly Bloomberg and AP, they got to tell the truth to their subscribers, because those subscribers are the only thing keeping them afloat. Now, of course, there's fighting on the front lines as usual, but nothing really of consequence. A Russian offensive in Kupiansk. Like I said, the Russian death trap. Now, fighting here and some advancing on the front, but not, well, still a death trap in operation. Now, Lyman, nothing but a bit of a rearranging of the deck chairs, but there is fighting west of Silvesk. There's fighting down here in the mid-front, which hasn't happened in a while. There's fighting south of Chavez Yar and around Konsk. Again, rearranging of the deck chairs. No real offensive. They're just probing the lines. For now, it looks like Zelensky's new commander has everything plugged. Well, obviously they know the Russians will move around in the middle of the day and in the middle of the night in the fog. And of course, anybody screams out the Russians are coming, they ask them, are you Ukrainian or Russian? Because they're not going to fall for the same trick in Hulapol, or Posk. But here we are, where there is still fighting in many areas, with obviously probing attacks on Bistaki, Myriad, probing attacks, although this might actually be in force, a raid on the center of town, but it is just that, a raid. A raid is when you send a slightly bigger force and again withdraw. A probing attack is a short attack on positions to find out their strength, whereas larger attacks like this raid are to see if they can weaken a position or not. So the death trap, that is the Pavos station, continues. The Ukrainians trying to keep their supply lines open, of course, do come under fire, and they're trying to counterattack at Ravine to try and keep the supplies going to Myriad, because airdrops, too close. They can airdrop parts of Ukraine, but they're not going to bring a transport close to the front line. Although, as proven, anything within 25 miles of the front line is hit. But, so here we have strikes and probing attacks, and nothing really of consequence yet, but there are ongoing attacks, and that's mostly here. The fighting is intense in western Hulapol and around Savatopavskaya and Zikri. You'll see this name often. There's a couple of towns. There's a couple of towns like Zikrin and Pavoskia that repeated throughout Ukraine. Often think that's deliberately to mislead the outsiders. But, aerial attacks. Now, Russia is upgrading its Su-35s and 25s. The Su-25s are its primary export. They were being made in Iran. They were made in conjunction with Russia. It looks like that factory has closed. Looks like the drones are now, including the Shahed, are still going, sort of. Now, the factory is still sort of going. The Russian side of the factory is going. You're going to hear a lot about Iran. Today, Trump hasn't made an announcement. I think it may be tomorrow, whether or not Iran is officially in a revolution or violent protest. For now, most of the media say violent protests. Venezuela, most of the protests peaceful. Most of the protests are celebrations. We'll see how that holds tomorrow after the announcement of takeovers and transitional governments and a dismissing of the Ukrainian, which wishful thinking there. Dismissal of the Venezuelan government. You've got to remember there was also, Russia. Putin did not take it well, losing Venezuela. Remember, they were bringing Russian oil to Venezuela. They're on Chinese tankers. They would load up the rest of the tanker with Venezuelan crude on top, and it would naturally mix on the way to China or third-party ports. A lot of Venezuelan oil was moved by Chinese tankers to third-party ports such as India, Pakistan, and other countries. Oil is such a complex business that often you can have two warring countries buying oil off the same source and sometimes each other. It is such a complex business because the whole world runs on fuel. You're going to hear a lot about how alternative fuels are replacing. Peak, maybe, but only when they turn off every industry. They keep talking about households, not industry, by the way. So they're going to talk a lot about Ukraine and the Ukrainian rebuilding plan, because really they have an exit strategy if they're talking about rebuilding. So if that's true, then so it's about Zelensky and his pieces of the pie. All the corruption in the world always evolves around government contracts and how much the oligarchs take, and then Zelensky's retirement plan, protection plan. He's definitely. I don't think it's Putin who's going to get him. It's going to be his own people. It's probably why he's still rearranging the deck chairs. Today it was the defense minister becoming the energy minister, because the energy minister was dismissed as the defense minister. It's still up in the air, but it's down to 3 of his friends. Everybody in Zelensky's cabinet is connected to Zelensky. So whether it's a crook or not is irrelevant, because everybody is tarred with the same. They're all Zelenskys, which means they're all partnered with Kolominsky, which means they are all crooks by association. Right? None of them are going to arrest each other, even if not all of them are guilty, allegedly guilty, and allegedly not. But what we have is a complex web of lies and deception, where Ukrainians are drone striking random things in Russia and claiming huge victories. Russia has attacked and taken out power again in parts of Ukraine. Russian officials released information about a couple that was allegedly killed. There was also a woman who was wounded and a child that was wounded. Russia's defense ministry has said it's gained control over Podoli. Another insignificant town, nothing of consequence. Latvian police are claiming someone's interfered with their undersea cable. Those Ukrainian divers, eh? But Trump doesn't believe the strike happened. He believes that it was nearby, but had nothing to do with a direct attack on Putin. He's not saying that. Be very, very specific and understand there was an attack. But according to Trump, it was not an attack on Putin's residence, but on a facility nearby that is still secret in Russia. And it's a naval facility to do so with. But that is the allegation that Putin can't come out and say Ukraine knows about a secret facility that they built in Nova in northern Russia. So there is always going to be that disconnect that goes on every day because politicians often are forced to lie. Everybody's forced to lie at some point in politics. Now, Trump has confirmed that he is not going to set a deadline for the settlement of Ukraine. This is actually at the request of the Europeans. They've asked for more time to come up with an alternative plan after the original 2 weeks off to cool off, celebrate the holidays. And after meeting, they've decided that, they want more time, so he's going to give it to them, right? And from Putin's side is give the Europeans enough rope to hang themselves, because he knows the Europeans are just trying to grab a piece of the rebuilding pie to delay the war longer, to make the rebuilding cost more, to drag out the war, of course. Because they want to capture more Russian equipment. Where would American research be without capturing Russian equipment, and vice versa? Trump has threatened India with high tariffs. Of course, you can see Lady Gaga and others. There's this glee, but in reality is actually, sorry, it's not Lindsey Graham. Sorry, I misread that. Yes, it is. It's Senator Lindsey Graham. Sorry. It's that haircut. Just for a minute I thought, is that Lindsey Graham? His receding hairline, yeah, it's just a little bit. Not surprised. But, so India's been hit with a tariff, and now that negotiations have broke down, New Delhi has refused to back off. Washington are eager to clinch a trade deal. However, they are saying, look, you do as we say, or next round of tariffs, you'll see them much higher. And they are going to be much higher because India has already said they stand with Russia ad infinitum. Why, of course, because they're profiting off this war. They're buying oil cheap. Don't forget, those purchase agreements with Venezuela will still go ahead. Now, because they're not diluted by Russian oil, it actually means more money for Venezuela because it's not half Russian oil. So whatever's purchased will actually be Venezuelan oil, and the money will go to Venezuela, not the Russian oil company, and then Venezuela get the trickle down. And of course, that's one reason to not like Putin, right? He has deceived the world for years about Russian oil production. He's been using his allies and BRICS to sell more oil than to hide the Russian military build-up of cash. Just like China is trying to hide its military build-up, but failed miserably because they decided to show off all their new war toys at the fifth plennium, or whatever it is, the 75th anniversary or whatever it is, showing off their DFs and their fake. Turns out to be fake air defenses because they were. Don't order air defense from Temu, okay? Look, Cambodia's getting its ass handed to it right now, but you're going to hear about Trump says, give it time, they'll sort themselves out, so give it time. It's approved. This Thailand is not breaking the agreement. They're acting in self-defense against a bunch of Chinese-backed criminals who have effed around and found out. Now, speaking of F around and finding out, is Michael Flynn has told Cocaine Nose here that he's a dictator, and of course that has upset the Zelensky who does not like anybody who doesn't share his worldview. Of course, Zelensky's worldview is, I'm the Zelensky, I'm the chosen one. You will give me the money that I asked for and the weapons that I asked for, and you will allow me to defend myself against Russia. But yeah, basically in an interview with Sputnik, of course, that has upset many in the defense inner circle, that it's verboten to speak it to the Russians. But I think it's important dialogue that will eventually de-escalate many situations. As I think Russia's now finding out that BRICS is the complete and utter domination of Russia by Brazil, China, and India. And South Africa is just the... we wanted some oranges, some fresh fruit. They're just along for the ride. Just another commie state. They've got nothing really to contribute. They're actually a net liability. Brazil is close to it. None of Lula's grand infrastructure schemes have lifted their economy out of the doldrums or restored confidence in investment. And, of course, factories lay idle because anytime someone wants production over, even just to meet a production quota, it's instantly how much overtime you're going to give us. And, they want to take home double the money for paying half the prices at the grocery store. You just can't run an economy on that moron mentality. So Brazil is stalling. You have Argentina soaring ahead with its anti-communist agenda, which is making China and Brazil foam at the mouth. India, of course, is preparing for war with China. They've built a large military base and stocked it with short and intermediate range missiles. There's no one else in range in the Himalayas. You're not attacking Pakistan from the Himalayas. It's it's not facing Kashmir. It's on the other side. So it's not even facing there's no one else, right? You got this huge corridor, Indian corridor above Bangladesh, right? Pakistan's over here behind the mountains. The mountains are also shielding, they're on the other side of the mountains, which means they're facing China, right? It's a clear middle finger, it's a very important, this is very important thumb, poke you in the eye, good thumbs up. You're number one, right? You're the symbol of my love. You're the symbol of my promise, and this is the very important finger. It is for the counting of the money. But women seem to think it's for the high C. Do not play the piano and tinkle with the sea. So, yes. But that is where we're at with this war, right? This war is not the only one. It is growing cold, not just in Europe, but in general, with the amount of people who oppose it. In principle, most people just say, cut your losses, Zelensky, and telling European leaders to cut him off. He's a junkie. And that's what you've got to do with junkies. Cut them off. Thank you for listening. Please like, share, and subscribe, and support the channel. You can support the channel on Ko-Fi, Patreon, buy my books, or buy my merch. All my links in the link tree description below, in my profile, or scan the QR code on the screen. I appreciate each and every one of you. See you in the next video, and bye for now.